Today we have a guest, and we have a guest by the name of GACHAMO, an author. Now, before I get Joel is one of those people who is passionate about the fulfillment of human potential. Leveraging our God-given ability. And today's conversation, we want to talk about success and how to leverage one's potential. Are you here with me? Success and how to leverage one's potential. Joel is not only an author but wears many hats. But let me not describe him because the gentleman is here. Welcome to the show and tell us who Joel GACHAMO is.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Barbara and Kariko.
Pleasure to be
here. Santeni sana. And to all the listeners, thank you as well. It's amazing to know we are talking to people from different countries. It's amazing. Joel GACHAMO is an author, as you've heard. I'm a Christian, I'm a father, I'm a consultant in technology. And yes, I'm passionate on fulfillment of human potential because I believe we all have an ability that we need to reach, and most of the time we don't. So my hope and my purpose is just to make sure as many people as possible realize that potential and fulfill it.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Since we're talking about success and how one can leverage it, in your opinion, what is success or what makes someone successful?
No, great question. I view success first and foremost as being holistic. You don't want to just achieve one piece and leave the rest. I kind of feel you have to have a holistic approach.
The holistic 360 thing?
Yes. You have to have a full, your mental wellness, your physical wellness, your financial wellness, your spiritual wellness, all this holistic approach to me is what I call success. And more so is fulfilling your potential or your purpose. If you can achieve your purpose here or not, then you've been successful, no matter what the purpose was. I also view success as a journey so that you don't wait to be successful 5 years, 10 years. It's right now. By making somewhere on time, I was successful.
So I should not have those plans of my 5-year success plan, my 10-year success plan.
You would have, but you also need to achieve them as you go. You need to celebrate every milestone. Otherwise, you will always be sad until 5 years.
You'll be thinking until 5 years. That's it.
You see?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. So in your book, you talk about internal domain and external domain, which are components of success.
Yes.
Break this down for us in very layman's kapisa.
I'm very layman.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and this is just my own view. I view as...
Yes, today is Joel GACHAMO's view.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I see for one to be successful, we have to look at the internal side first. It's just like when you're building, the foundation matters a lot, but most of the time you don't see it. So if you don't have a ground foundation, which is what I'm calling the internal domain, and they are your spirit, your soul, and your body. And interesting, this is actually common across the whole universe. If you see the earth, we talk about having a core, a mantle, and the crust.
Yes.
God, we talk of him being a triune being. So it's a common theme across the universe that we operate in three. If you look at the atom, inside it, there are three things.
We just name it differently.
Yes. So it's basically looking at your spirit, and being successful at understanding your purpose, which is found at your spirit. Once that is achieved, then you can build your mental well-being, or what you call your emotion or your soul, and then your physical well-being. I say there is no point of saying I have been successful, say on financial, but you are struggling on the health, on things that you could avoid. Of course, there are things that are unavoidable, but things that you could have avoided. So that's the internal self. So you are fortified on the inside. Then from there, we look at the external, which is obviously what people see and what is easy to talk about. But before you look at that external, we want to be sure that the inside is strong and is ready to face, because the world has challenges. And sometimes, and actually most of the time, it is not the financial that solves most of these challenges, it's the internal self. So I classify the external, say, into three areas. So one is your origin. Where do I belong? And this is talking about the core of you. Where did I come from? Who are my close friends? Who are my family? And taking care of that group.
That also just encompasses the origin?
Yes, yes. Because that's like your base.
Okay.
And it's key because, you can't be alone.
Yeah.
And even if you succeed, but you don't have friends, you'll always have holes and gaps in yourself. So you feel that by having, a close-knit friendship, family bonds and relationship bonds. And then we talk about having your belongings, which of course is with things we accumulate as we go across life, and then contribution. I emphasize on contribution because we don't achieve for just our own self. There has to be an essence that there is value I'm bringing to the community, to the people around me. As we were talking about the number of people we've employed here at SpiceFM, that's a contribution.
Yes.
And somebody else is also contributing in another way. A doctor somewhere is contributing. And that's the way we have to live our life. It's just not me. It's what am I benefiting the society? How am I moving the community forward? How am I moving the world forward? And could be on small issues, could also be on global issues like climate change, peace, universal well-being, and could also be as basic as, do I make my friends be at peace? Do I take care of my family? Do I contribute to my employer as I should? Everywhere we have to look at how am I contributing.
Spice.
When you talk about leveraging one's potential, what do we mean exactly? For someone who's wondering, do I not know what my potential is? Because some people don't know. And how can I leverage that?
Absolutely. Actually, we are all born with potential. So everybody has.
Even the ones that people say, well, una.
Hakuna mtu hana. Everybody has. The question is discovering it.
Yes.
And then making it have an impact. So let's talk about the brain, the way our brain is. So we have what we call the conscious brain, which we use for, computation and everything. And then we have the subconscious brain, which has a lot of power, a lot of memory, a lot of knowledge, wisdom. But the challenge is we don't know how to get to it. And that is what I've been trying to address in the book, because that's like the powerhouse that is not accessed or untapped. So what the subconscious mind does is that, one, it's contain all your memories, contain all your experience, your emotions, and can learn things on its own. So if you try to automate a task and, like you say, I'm going to be waking up at this time, you do it a couple of times, it becomes your nature. If you say, I'll be saving, and you start doing it and you consistently do, it becomes your second nature. We talk about second nature.
Yeah.
So if you think like going home, which is an example I've used there, if you actually ask someone, tell me how you get to your house, you soon realize, by the way, is it the second turn, the third turn? I can't remember. But you get yourself there because the subconscious mind has learned to do it.
It has a memory for it.
It has a memory for it and knows it, even though you're not even aware that you know. So now we talk about how do you get that to become useful for your day-to-day life. So what are the challenges you're having? Say you want to be polite, or you want to learn to save, or you want to learn a certain skill. Can you have leverage the subconscious, big memory to help you get it and become second nature? You've seen people walk on ropes.
Yes.
It is tough. But when you do it so many times, it just becomes normal. So that is what we are talking about. So whatever little skills one has or whatever calling one has, can you actually perfect it and leverage this huge subconscious mind until it becomes second nature to you? And now you can talk about, I am polite, I wasn't before. I save, I wasn't doing that before. I am disciplined, I wasn't before. Purely by leveraging the subconscious mind.
Is it something like practice makes perfect?
Yes. That is kind of it, yes. It's about how often you do it, but then in the book, we go into the science of it, because it's not just the doing, it's also the emotion that accompany what you're doing. So you talk about habit formation. So how do you actually move from, let's say, these bad habits to a good habit?
Yeah.
There is a science behind it, because some of these habits are the ones that take us backward. So if for you to really achieve that potential, you have to actually leverage the subconscious mind. You have to build in habits. You have to build in behaviors that allow you to be better and better. That's the science that we are talking about.
Then I'll come and I'll say, but Joel, I'm a procrastinator. I procrastinate a lot. Procrastination is the enemy of my progress. And this is
that is already a confession.
Yeah. I personally...
The person is self-aware.
Yeah,
Yes.
I personally struggle, or I don't think I struggle anymore as much as I did. But procrastination has been a huge deterrent for that. How do I beat it? How do I manage it? How do I get over it?
True. First, self-awareness is a good thing. You call it conscious incompetence. You know you don't know. That's a good thing.
Conscious
Incompetence, yes. You don't know, but you know that you don't know. If you don't know and you don't know that you don't know, is bad, because there's nothing you can do about it. So,
Okay.
yeah, so if let's say you're dealing with procrastination, so you first identify this is a problem and I have it. So what do? I need to be intentional in doing something that I planned to do. So let's talk about snoozing, which is something that I've spoken in the book, which is a disaster to a lot of people.
I have like 5 alarms. I even said, I'm tired of these alarms. I'm done with them. I deleted them on the weekend.
Oh my, let's overcome it right now.
I still keep mine.
LA, I'm
Look,
done.
you say you're waking up at 6.
Yeah.
You'll really tell your system, your subconscious mind, it is 6. And
But I know it's 6:30.
I'm a man and I'm a woman of my word. Then you end up waking up at 7. What are you teaching your brain? What you say doesn't matter.
Oh.
So you say, I wake up at 6, anytime. So the next time you say, okay, now I have a saving goal, I need to save 10,000. The brain like, it doesn't matter. You don't have to achieve it. And so you sabotage yourself because you formed a habit of pushing the snooze button and pushing and pushing.
Yeah.
So you are literally teaching your brain to procrastinate, to delay, to not take things seriously. So even when you make a commitment, you find you are not able to. Not that you didn't want to, but your brain has learned that it is not important just by that snooze button.
Talking of the snooze button, and I like the example that Karigo has given, that there's an issue of procrastination. Where do our thoughts come in place? Because if you think about it, these are all in my mind. And I am self-aware that maybe, as she's saying, I procrastinate a lot. I don't do this. So that's in my thoughts. How do I get to control that? And is it important for me to control my thoughts to be able to practice what you're saying?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because your thought become you. They're forming you. And a lot of what we are, and again, back to the subconscious mind, is the thoughts that we processed over time, and they become you, and you do them without a conscious awareness. I mean, you've seen some of the habits that we have. You don't even know that you did this. Someone has to remind, oh, did I? Because it just became part of you, and you have totally lost it. So controlling the thought, I would say, first it has to be intentional, and it is a tough one.
Yes.
So there is an exercise here in the book that talk about, you set an alarm. So let's say you put 10 and 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. When the alarm goes, just write what were you thinking at that very moment.
Even if I'm not going to do anything.
Yes, just write what you were thinking. The idea is to catch what goes on in your mind when you're not aware.
I'm thinking about how I want to sleep more.
Fair enough.
But at that time, you'll be awake.
No, I'm thinking I just want to sleep some more. Maybe if I sleep some more, I'll be more functional.
That's a good thought because at least it's a progressive thought.
Yes.
But
most of the time, it's not me lying to myself.
No.
Thank
the thing
God.
is, you will find you were actually thinking about an incident that happened that annoyed you. So which means your thoughts are in the past.
Yeah.
And you may find you are actually planning, how to revenge or do something that's not helpful to you.
Yeah.
You write it down. So when you do that analysis, you actually ask yourself, out of all these things I was thinking, how many were helpful? So then you realize who is a saboteur in your life. Is it the
Yourself.
external people or is it me?
It's me.
Exactly.
Yourself.
It's always me.
Exactly. So now you do the reverse. You set an alarm of just intentionally thinking right. When this alarm goes, you stop everything and just think something good. It will become a default. And you don't have to change
Like I
everything.
set an alarm for 1 p.m.
Yeah.
And
And
then I
when
start
that alarm
thinking.
goes, just stop.
That's
Let me think
exactly
something
what I'm
positive.
going to start
Exactly.
doing, honestly.
Yeah.
Won't I look funny? I'm just asking.
You don't have to tell
Wow.
anyone. This is private.
Okay.
Wow.
So it's like I'm trying to build myself.
Exactly.
Is that a way of banning negative thoughts, negative energy?
Yeah, that is also something that you do and which is intentional. Yeah, so just to wind up on the previous.
Yeah.
So the idea is you want to correct even just by 1%. If you get your thoughts right by 1% today, another 1% next month, you might just change 10%, it might change 15%, and your life will change. When we talk about self-sabotage, that is exactly what happens. Because if you're busy processing negative thought, past thoughts, then how can you say you're moving forward? So that's, on the self-awareness, that's key. So coming to the banning the negative thoughts, it was amazing. We were doing this exercise with the guys I was doing mentorship with.
Mm-hmm.
And we realized that something happened in your life, maybe somebody or an employer or an ex-spouse or an ex-somebody or whatever could be. And you hold that thing for so long. I mean, I agree, when something bad happens, it's really annoying. And, it's not practical as a human being to just say, done in 1 second. But then there is kind of what you call a period that is now beyond, normal. And if you still hold these negative thoughts, you find actually they work against you. Because you try to start a business, you are remembering something that happened. This fellow business person messed me up. And that sabotages you from doing what you want to do. You want to progress in a relationship, you remember so many years back. You want to get a new job, you remember that one. And these things can hinder your progress. So there's a concept of action releases energy. So if you actually write down, this happened, and you can be as aggressive as you want. It's on paper. You're expressing it on paper. Suffice to say, if it's somebody approachable, if I had a problem with you, Barbara, I'll come to you if I can and say, I am sorry for this and this happened. But in some cases, you don't have that leverage. Maybe it's a boss who cannot be approached, or whatever could be the case.
Or someone is in hierarchy of command.
Yes, here you can actually reach. So you write it down on paper, all your anger, put it there, and just cross out and say, I forgive. That action will initiate an energy in your mind, and you burn that paper with fire and like, gone, I've released.
I've just realized there's a lot of writing as you're talking about.
Yes.
And it's therapeutic. I love it.
Yes.
So for those who don't believe in that act of putting down to paper,
You can talk.
Yeah. Is there an option?
You can talk. Yes.
Can I
you can talk
record
to yourself.
myself?
Yes, you can talk to yourself. By the way, I do that. Sometimes I'm just in the forest and you just talk, and you'd actually ask me, who are you talking to? No, I was just talking to some imaginary things that I wanted to let go.
I talk to myself.
Prayer
a lot,
works
Barbara.
because
Yes.
prayer you're talking to God. So, there's so many options.
I always say Abraham and Joseph encouraged themselves in the Lord. So sometimes I
Yes.
talk to myself. People think I'm crazy, but I am not.
Spice.
What is mental energy? And how can one harness this?
Mental energy.
Yeah.
Very good question. So this is like, I would call it the fuel that you need as a person to get the job done, but mainly to the brain. Because everything we do need your brain to have the ability to do it. So you can talk of having the mood, having the desire to do something. You can have a physical energy, but you don't have the mood. So mental energy refers to that energy fuel in the brain to help you do what you need to do. It's a powerful one because it's actually what helps us achieve what we want to do. So let's say you think you're doing a very serious project. If you're stressed, you won't be able to do it well because the mental energy is low. And so the key here is, how do I maintain a high mental energy level for productivity? And there are several concepts. Maybe we can talk of one. So think of, you have a full tank in the morning, because when you sleep, the sleep recycles and it refreshes you. The problem is we use it for the wrong things. Instead of using it for our goals, for our purpose, for our productivity, you use it to shout at the driver who is cutting you on the road.
That's very true.
That's one bar gone. You go somewhere, you start remembering bad things, and you start getting angry, another bar gone. By the time you're getting to your productive thing, you're halfway. And so how much can you do? So the trick is, how do I manage this mental energy to be at peak most of the time, and how do I refresh it? That is the topic that we are addressing there on the productivity chapter. Yeah.
Just on that mental energy one,
Yes.
do we all have the same mental energy, or our degrees are different? And as you're talking about maintaining it and trying to restore it, now are we trying to say that if I meet someone on the street and I'm one of those people, I cannot call out Nani because I'm going to lose one bar? Yeah. So how do I manage to maintain it and still be able to be myself?
Thank you. That's a good question, because that's now it's what you call the key. What is the trick of this thing? So we talk about, can you remove some of the tasks we do that consume mental energy that are not needed? So let's say automating. For example, think about when you wake up in the morning. By the time you decide what to wear and choose that one and return that one and that, you've already spent a lot of energy on a trivial task that you can automate. So this might look trivial, and in fact I say that in the book, it might look trivial, but it's important. Suppose if you just say, these are the dresses for formal, this is for casual, you just pick and go. By the time you argue there for 30 minutes, you've already drained a lot of energy. And that is actually productive energy being used for something unproductive. Then just think about in your life, are there things that you do that can be done by somebody else?
Yeah.
Just outsource them.
Like delegation?
Delegate, yes.
Yeah.
Delegate that. Some of the decisions we do don't necessarily need us to do them. So do an assessment. This is what I do from morning to evening. This is the most important. These are the non-essential, but I still have to do them. So, I need to eat lunch. Can I get someone to cook? Thank you. There are restaurants, so that's great. Can I design and say, this is what I'll be wearing and don't have to stress myself every morning? If you're traveling like I do, I have a traveling bag, so I don't travel and find, I forgot the toothbrush, I forgot that. These are simple things that help you be more productive, because the more productive you are, then of course the more you can fulfill what you wanted to do. but minimize the trivial. That's what it says the key. Don't do trivial as much as possible. Outsource and avoid the one that you can avoid. If somebody cuts you on the road, just think, if I spend all my energy shouting at them, or just let it go.
Okay.
You know?
That letting go is the tricky part. You don't want to look weak. You don't want to look like you can be walked over.
But what do we
How do you
normally
meet a
achieve?
balance? How do you find the balance?
It is tough, I agree.
Yeah,
but,
it's hard.
I've done it many times until I eventually ask myself, what do you gain? Do you think the
Yeah.
other guy actually hear you shouting? And does he care?
Yeah,
I wish I could literally pull the car back. That I would do.
But it's not
It's
possible.
not possible.
Yeah.
So you just learn to let go of some trivial things and just keep focus on what is more important, because there is a lot to do. I mean, there is a lot. And if we spend our energy on trivials, then we're in trouble. The other
Now-
part of, go ahead.
Sorry, now that you are talking about mental energy and balancing it, I like the word that she's used. We're trying to balance it. And part of balancing it, I've had this famous statement. I see it in the corporate society. I see it, people doing it every New Year's, goal setting, vision boards. Like, what is all that about?
Absolutely. Very good. And we do it a lot.
Yes, and
Yes.
some of us, I know it's important,
Yes.
and I know the reasons why people do it for different, depending if it's an organization, but if it's a person, but because we're trying to harness someone's potential, and she talked about getting that balance. How do I get to also balance that issue of goal setting and my vision boards?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Goal setting, to be honest, is a game changer. If you don't have goals, you can imagine you're just living life as it comes. But when you set goals, you are basically now trying to be intentional. This is where I'm going. You see, like when you focus light using this, is it convergence lens or convex,
Yes.
whatever the word was?
Physics.
Yes, you get it. You get a lot of impact. So if we're living life and you've no specific goals, and a lot of people actually, just go. Whatever comes. So you are not able to filter.
Is that sustainable?
Well, I don't know how people make it, but I used to be like that, and I can tell you, you just leave, but you feel like you think you are achieving, but when you look back, you actually wonder, is this all that I could have done? But goal setting basically is saying, this is what I want to achieve, this is a timeline I want to achieve, and there is a science behind it, because there is no point of you setting a goal you're not going to achieve. So you want to discipline your life in all areas. Again, remember, it's not just one particular aspect. What is my goals on health? What do I want to achieve in terms of health? And what do I need to do to achieve that? So could that be exercise? Could that be changing diet? Could that be medical checks? Whatever could be.
Well, this is still in line with your mental energy.
No, it will come together, because now to do that, you need the mental energy to be able to achieve all this. So, but goal setting is first saying, what do I want to achieve? Like just set your life. Where do I want to be? So if someone was to say, on your funeral, what should be said? So that is like your top, this is what I want to be in whatever number of years. Then you break down, what do I need to be doing in the short term, in the medium time to arrive at that? And you bring it down to the now. So what should I be doing today, this month, this year? When you live like that, you're basically living a purposeful life. You are intentional. And then you're able now coming to mental energy. You know what is trivial and what is not trivial.
Okay, what you're talking about, some of
Exactly.
us do a lot of trivial things.
Yes, because if it's not important to your overall goal, you let it go. And that's why I was saying, back to the same guy cutting you on the road, because they'll do it even tomorrow.
Yes.
How does that matter 5 years from now that somebody cut you on the road?
It doesn't matter.
Let it go. Somebody insult you.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. It's not going to matter in years to come. But if it will matter in some years to come, somebody cutting you on, let's say, on a career growth or something, then yes, you do something about it.
Because it's part of your
It
goal
is, yes,
setting
exactly.
or your
It is
visions.
important to your vision. It's important to your progress.
Then
Yes.
how do we identify the difference between goals and purpose?
They are linked.
They're linked.
Purpose is what you want to achieve. Goals are the ladders that gets you there.
So both of them must coexist.
Exactly. In
They
fact,
can't do without the
no.
other.
If the goals are not aligned to purpose, then they just wish list. And it's of no purpose. So you're basically climbing the wrong
They're like
wall or
bucket
the wrong
lists.
tree.
Yeah.
Exactly. The so-called bucket list.
Yes, yeah, the wish
Yeah.
list. I wish I could do this or that.
Yeah.
So then we have identified our goals.
Yes.
We've identified our purpose. We've identified this is the mental energy we need to have. But I'm seated here and I'm thinking, how do I let go of my past? How do I let go of my past so that I can be able to achieve all this and still live in a purpose-driven life
Very
without thinking about how the past just keeps coming to me and
Yes.
coming back? Because in all honesty, Joel, we are human beings.
Yes. You know, when we use that word past, most of the time, it's the past that is dragging you, not the good past. Most of the time, you know, just the general connotation of the word past. I mean, if you've had things go so well, you actually want to relive that memory and like, yes, I did. But unfortunately, most of the time is the bad past that is still clinging. Let me be a bit scientific. You know, when you look at the Earth, the movement of the Earth, you're never in one place at any given point. This thing is moving at 30 kilometers per hour, is revolving. Everything in the universe is moving. And I learned a lesson there. There is nothing that is ever in the past. From the time we started this conversation, we probably have moved thousands of kilometers. Mm-hmm. So why is it that human beings like to live in the past? It bothered me. One is obviously because the brain has the capacity to store that memory. But again, looking at it scientifically, if you allow that to become your focus, then it becomes important, whatever it is in the past. So to me, what I learned, the key is you can't delete, as you rightly said, we are humans. You can't delete a bad thing, you can't delete the past, but you can give it less significance. Yes, and that to me is the key. So what do I choose to focus on right now? That becomes important. But the rest are still here. If I really try to ask you questions now, 10 years ago, you remember, if you start remembering, you may even start crying.
True.
But yet I might also ask you something good that happened and you'll start laughing 5 seconds later, just because that became important. But if you focus on the bad one, it's the most important thing and it will keep dragging you down. So it is intentional. It's not just something that happened by default. It's just being calculative. I will choose to think about this. That's it. And I will not going to focus on this. Progressively, once the brain realizes you no longer bothers about this, it goes to the backstore and backstore and backstore. And now later on you'll ask, oh, that one, what was
Spice? In your book, which of course you'll be plugging in as we proceed, I realize you talk about different things we talked about mental energy, harnessing our potential, different ways. I'll ask, this is a very personal question. Have you ever failed? Because you seem so perfect and like all put together. Yeah, like you're talking about snoozing, you are all put together. Have you ever encountered failure?
Big time. I thought the book was actually my journey of failure.
No, because there's someone who's listening, and there's a reason I'm asking. Sure. How have you managed to I hope you can share, how have you managed to get through failure and not giving up? Because when you talk about harnessing your potential, the things you've said that are important, some are trivial. And as you were speaking, I realized I'm one of those people, I think I spend a lot of trivial things, like I could just channel that energy elsewhere. And you're also talking about our thoughts. And some of us, our thoughts, some are healthy, some are unhealthy, some of the things that have dragged us down. We talk about setting, goal setting and our visions and how important are that. And some of us have really set goals. We've done things correctly and things have not gone the way we'd like them to go. That person was listening and is wondering, if I have failed, how do I get back to that bandwagon of leveraging my potential?
No, absolutely. Thank you so much for such a good observation. In fact, just to admit here is that I wrote the book after so many failures and kind of reaching a level of I think I've wasted a lot of my time doing things if I knew better. You look at your life if I knew better, I could be 3 times where I am.
I know, I get those every day.
Yes, and that regret. So the first thing was, what do I do with that regret? Do I let it bite me or do I channel it to do better? And that was the first thing I took. I took that regret as good anger to get me to change. And in fact, in the book, I confess that I went on an overdrive. Wake up at 5 a.m. every day, doesn't matter. Because I was how could I have spent all this time? I had so much privilege. Of course, I didn't start with privilege, but I got a very good job in a good corporate. I was given a lot of good responsibilities. But what did I do with it?
You felt like you wasted it.
Exactly. You're looking back. I wish I can go back. And that happens to a lot in the corporate because you get into a place of comfort. So things flow, salary come, per diems come, and
you're
you
traveling.
Think it's eternal. Then at some point COVID come or something come or, economic crisis
COVID
come.
was a red flag for
Exactly,
many.
become an awakener.
Yeah.
So that thing of feeling I didn't get it right helped me to actually rethink. So what could I have done better? And so I started implementing those steps one by one. But here's the thing, nothing works day one.
Okay.
It is purely repeating. And there is one step in the goal setting, which I'll emphasize here. It is called self-reflection. So I wanted to do this. I wanted to achieve 10. I've only achieved 4. Look like a failure. What do I do with a gap of 6?
Yeah.
You know, once you look at it, questions like, why did I not achieve? What could I have done better? The moment you get into that self-introspection and make it intentional, for me is Monday morning. I set aside an hour. I'm phone off, just looking at, this is what I needed to do. Why have I not done it? What could I do better? You take those notes. That's like the best book you can ever read, because it's personal, it's your own data, it's you. But if you just leave, without ever checking, without ever reviewing, then you will call failure failure. But actually, failure is just like a signal. Hey, you could have done better. Let's look at this. I'm learning that a lot, that if you leverage the so-called failure or setbacks or underachievement, whatever the appropriate word, you can actually improve yourself just by a small degree. I always use this example. If you are actually, going to a very distant place and you miss by 1 degree, over time, that degree will become 1 kilometer, 10 kilometer, 200 kilometers.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So, but if you got it right, you see how much distance you're saving.
Yeah.
So if you just corrected, you look at your life and these are not the things that are going right, what can I change? And you just change one thing. It might save you a lot. It might give you 10 years of your life later.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's that reflection and taking action on the failure, shortfall, shortcomings, underperformance, whatever the word is, and doing it intentionally.
Like an assessment of yourself.
Assessment. Intentional, not like assuming it will happen. This is a time, I wake up 1 hour earlier, I switch off my phone and I do an assessment. Put it and execute it. If you leave it to wishful thinking, it will never happen.
Definitely.
It'll be like, it's December. I should have done, I didn't do.
Yeah.
I have a friend who always uses this statement. She says, Kariko, some people in life, they have to hit rock bottom for them to find their purpose in life, for them to know if they want to live a self-goal-driven life or not. First and foremost, is that true? Secondly, what is hitting rock bottom? Because more often than not, some people are beginning to misuse that word, like depression or toxicity. What is hitting rock bottom? And once you hit rock bottom, can you survive?
I actually call them awakening moment. Because...
And can it happen more than once?
Yes.
Guy.
In the
The
old
rock
days,
bottom or the
awakening moments, regret moments.
Okay.
You remember when we were in, I don't know, when we were in primary, in our days, there used to be repeating.
Yes.
Haujaenda class 2 narudishwa because you didn't pass. Nowadays, I think watoto wanaendanga.
Everyone
They
passes.
go straight, everyone
They
passes.
say they don't want kids to be doing
Yeah.
that.
And
So-
that child who's found by the next class.
Well, there are reasons
Still
for it.
there.
I'll leave
Oh.
them alone. So in life, just imagine in life you are literally in a class. And, adulthood is growing progressively.
Yeah.
And, you're maturing in so many things. So if you don't mature, what happens? You're basically just repeating.
Yes.
So if you go through, let's say, a financial challenge, you hit rock bottom, for example, or you get an awakening moment, and you don't learn from it, then you might repeat.
Oh.
Yeah. But if you learn from it and leverage it, then you are done. Then you have another challenge. So you see, life is waves.
Yeah.
Up, down, up, down. It's never straight. But the thing is, the challenge you are facing today should not be the one you were facing 10 years ago. There should be new challenges for this level that we are in.
You need to grow.
Exactly.
So if you're still receiving the same challenges,
Iko
over and
shida.
over-
For remedial class.
You're in remedial class, exactly.
that's a very good statement
Yeah.
to make.
If you're joining the conversation, we're talking to Joel GACHAMO, an author, and the conversation we have today is we're talking about matters success and how to leverage your own strengths, your own potential, so that you can actually be a better person in life. Chime into this conversation through our social media handles, SpiceFM KE, on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. You could also send in your questions or your comments through our WhatsApp line, that is 01102888162. We'll be right back after this break.
Spice.
Is it appropriate to enlist the help of an accountability partner to help one commit while leveraging on one's potential?
Absolutely. Hit it very well. So it's interesting how our brain works, because there is always pressure actually helps. And it's not just, pressure is not necessarily a bad thing. So when you commit to somebody, you know what? I always keep time. It is embarrassing for you not to keep time.
Definitely.
But if you keep it to yourself, you may not fulfill it.
And
So-
you'll have no one
Exactly. You'll be like, I'm good, I'm safe. But if you actually went and said, you know what, guys, I am doing 1, 2, 3. This is my goals. not everyone. Remember, there are people who will be there to destroy.
Yes.
So you have to be, of course, be careful who you are giving. But if you do it to the right group, they actually become people who empower you, who challenges you, who will check on you, and you'll always have this at the back. I made a commitment. I need to fulfill it. So personally, I actually have that group. We call ourselves the Mighty Men of Valor. And you shout out your, wish list and what you want to do, and then make them goals, of course, practically. And everyone will be like, you said this, where are you? So you're forced to actually do it. So it's a very good thing to actually have an accountability partner or partners, depending on the situation. It's excellent.
I want to shift gears a bit on this question. Okay, just
One
continue.
more from the from WhatsApp. Having purposeful goals is good, but what happens when life decides to throw you something that makes your goals unachievable? How do you deal with that?
Good one, because that will happen, of course. It's interesting. Life is waves. When you go into the ocean and you see these waves coming, that's exactly what life is. It's never smooth, it's never straightforward. But what's the key? When that happens, you have a chance to review. And there are two ways of reviewing goals. Is it the goal that has a problem, or is it the means of achieving the goals that has a problem? I always say, don't be too quick to change the goal, because some of these challenges are temporary, and you might just change your goals and realize, it was just something for this month. It was just a temporary issue. So look at, is it the way I'm doing it? Is it me to fast change? Because the problem most of the time is the person, not the external issues. Before you look externally, look at yourself. But if really, over time, you realize, I think I did my goals too much. They are not achievable. They are not realistic, given this perspective. Then, of course, you can adjust your goals. But you shouldn't do it after 1 week, because the data is not enough to tell you whether the issue is a goal or it's just who has adjusted. And the other thing, every time when you start something, it starts very slow. It goes like on a snail speed, because you are basically gaining the momentum.
Yeah.
But when the momentum comes, it shoots. So you may have, let's say, if you use a financial goal, I want to have 100,000 by this period of time. And you're looking, you haven't moved. You're basically accumulating the inputs that are needed to achieve it. And maybe the last few months is when everything is going to spring. So don't be so quick to judge like this has failed. But yes, introspectively, if you have looked over time and you're sure, I think I overdid this, I forgot to consider these factors, then yes, change the goal, but don't change it too soon.
Change the goal, but don't change it too soon.
Exactly.
Talking about goals, in your book, and yes, this book is very nice. I have not finished reading it, but we've started reading snippets and several chapters. You talk about matters of the middle class trap. And the reason I'm asking this particular question, and for those who don't know, I would like you to explain what the middle class trap is. We're in an area where social media is with us, and many people want to seem to be rich, or to look like they're rich on social media, but in real sense, they are not. What brings about that?
Yeah, very good question. And yes, you're right. We are in that trap, actually. That is one of the trap.
Yes.
Looking rich, being rich.
And you're not rich.
Exactly.
And you want people to assume you are. But you
Yes.
are suffering.
You're suffering
Ama-
silently.
As they say in Swahili, una struggle.
Yes. We also call it keeping up with the Joneses.
Yes.
So the middle class trap is kind of a consumerism problem, where you judge the wealth by amount that you are consuming instead of the amount you are producing. Because really a wealthy person is somebody producing. I own that business. I own this factory. I produce that. I run that show. I do this. That's actually the wealthy person. The guy who has bought an expensive item doesn't mean he's rich, because literally anyone can be able to do that. If you give me 50,000, I can go and buy one item for 50,000 and say I bought it for 50.
Or I can go to the bank and get a loan.
Exactly. But to produce that 50,000, you have a factory that makes 50,000. To have a studio that does that. To have a chicken farm that gives you 50,000. That's where the key is. So we are focusing on how much is somebody consuming and saying that one is rich, instead of how much is somebody producing to define rich.
Wow.
And that's the trap. So because of that, so what happens? You consume more to look rich. And the more you consume, what happens? You have less. And so you actually get into loans and trouble and eventually financial depression, because I know there are many types of depression and we want to be polite to those who have it and need help. But there is depression that you actually bring to yourself.
The financial one.
Exactly. Because you are actually competing to consume instead of competing to produce. And that's the challenge. Outwardly, and you talked about social media, what I expect to see of you is your nice car, your nice outfit, your nice that, your nice that. I'm not expecting you to pose with your apron in your garage fixing cars.
Yeah.
That is a producer. That is somebody doing service. And you won't say that guy is rich, but he's actually producing. Some guy is out there with his cows milking in the morning at 5 a.m. That's a producer. Some guy is coming and bringing his tomatoes or whatever in Gekomba. That's a producer.
That's where the wealth is.
Exactly. But he's not going to post that because nobody is interested. You are interested in what's the latest that, how much did I spend on this? So when you get into that trap, so the thinking is consumer. And what does the brain do? Remember the subconscious mind? It gives you more option to consume. And because that's what you want. And so you find more option to consume and you consume and you consume, but you're not producing.
You trap into
and you're in a trap. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
So then let's talk about finance management. How best do people, how should people budget? How should people budget? And when it comes to budgeting, where specifically do people go wrong with money management? And I like that example of producing and consuming.
Yeah.
Is this part of it?
Yes. So, but I mean, I like this because I was in this trap as well. I mean, obviously, everybody has been. It would be unlikely to find someone who hasn't been in a trap.
There are people who have...
unless you were educated from home, which is, unfortunately, we don't get financial education.
No, we
Yes.
don't.
I mean, you can actually be a CFO of a bank and you've no clue on personal financial management.
Yes.
And that's unfortunate because it's not taught. So, budgeting. First of all, that word budgeting and another word called saving, in my opinion, are damaging words. I mean, they have done a lot of damage because of the assumption that we know. See, this is what I used to do. You get money, you open an Excel sheet, that much to this, that much to this, that much to this, balance zero, like I've budgeted. That's not budgeting. That is just, splitting it and listing it. Budgeting is intentional for a specific objective. I mean, what do I want my money to do? The primary thing you want your money to do is to produce more money. That's it. So how do you then put a budget that ensures the money you get produce more money? Now, not consume all of it. So I talk about having 4 buckets of budgeting. One, of course, is giving because, we are here and we're supposed to help others. And that's really how nature works. The second bucket is investing. And I'll come back to that briefly. And then the other one is on reserving and then spending. Now, I want to talk about investing and reserving because we commonly call them saving. And the challenge with saving is you do all the discipline and it's not easy.
Yes.
You earn 100K and you save 20. And you do it so well. At the end of the year, you have, is it 120 or 240? 240. And then something happened and, your car need fixing and you go and spend 200 and you're like, yeah, I saved and I fixed the car. But what have you done? You've just finished it. So your money is not producing more money. So eventually...
Just for emergency.
Yeah, it was just for emergency.
Good evening, everybody. How you doing?
SpiceFM.